Mortal Kombat Trilogy was released on the SEGA Saturn almost a full year after the PlayStation 1 version, which hit in September of 1996, therefore making the Saturn version an August 1997 release. You really wouldn't know it by playing the game though, as it feels almost exactly the same as the PlayStation 1 version, which begs the question, why did it take so long for this version to get released? Point of View was the developer responsible for porting the Saturn version of the game from the PlayStation, and they did a pretty good job considering the differences in system architecture. There are certain voice samples missing, there are incredibly lengthy load times, and transparencies have been replaced by mesh patterns, which was fairly common for Saturn ports to feature. Interestingly, there was only one version ever released on the Saturn, whereas the PlayStation saw 3 different versions, the last being a greatest hits version, which fixed infinite combos and lots of bugs present in the original release. By the time Mortal Kombat Trilogy was released, I had already moved on to the Street Fighter Alpha series, and was pretty much done with Mortal Kombat. The blood and gore of the first 2 games piqued my interest, but by Mortal Kombat 3, it had lost all its luster, and even the newly introduced run mechanic just didn't help the sluggish nature of the game. I had also grown exhausted of all the fatalities, babalities, brutalities, etc. I never regretted my decision of moving on, and that's even truer today than it was when the game was relevant. The concept with Mortal Kombat Trilogy was to include everything from the original Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 into one huge collection. It really was an awesome idea, but the problem is the games evolved quite dramatically from one to the next. The end result is a game that features an incredible amount of content, but is wickedly unbalanced as a result. You get 32 playable characters, all the stages, fatalities, and everything else you could possibly want from all of the Mortal Kombat games released up to that point. For characters that weren't part of the newer releases, they were given a few extra moves to help flesh them out, but when you have a character like Motoro up against old school Kano, it really feels unbalanced, as one hit from Motoro can reduce your life by an incredible amount. The artificial intelligence is also incredibly frustrating, as it constantly reacts to your inputs the exact same way. Try and throw a projectile and the AI will counter with an unblockable move that hits the same way each and every time. And that gets old really fast, but thankfully the multiplayer is strong with this one. You can play the solo game, 2-on-2, and even an 8-player mode where both players select 4 characters each. There are also a wealth of secret combat codes you can play around with. Overall, there's a lot of replay value and content here if you can overlook the long load times. If you enjoy the combat from Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, you'll likely have a lot of fun with this one, and using the SEGA Saturn pad makes this game much better than either the PlayStation 1 or N64 versions of the game. But it is odd that more animations or extra content wasn't added to the Saturn release, considering it was released almost a full year after the PlayStation 1 original. Before wrapping up, I should point out that Mortal Kombat Trilogy is one of the rarest North American Saturn games. It very rarely shows up on eBay, and even less so in the wild. The game frequently sells for over $100 US, and if you see a copy out there, you should pick it up right away, as you just don't see it very often. As a game by itself, I much prefer other fighters on the Saturn, but I can certainly appreciate what the developers were trying to do here. If you're a Mortal Kombat or SEGA Saturn fanatic, I wish you the very best of luck hunting down a copy of Mortal Kombat Trilogy on the SEGA Saturn.
Nightwolf.